Hi everyone. Before making this movie called No Monastery, No Village, I did a lot of research and I do a lot of advocacy writings. And then I realized that my audience or my targeted audience are not educated. And I realized that this writing restricts to so-called exclusive educated people only. But my aim was to make the climate change the issue of common people, and for that to happen, my writing was not really helping me at all. I had to do something different, and that's where the filmmaking comes in. I did training, and yes, that's how the idea was born. It was difficult in the beginning, not because I'm a new filmmaker, but because my community has never been properly filmed before, and people were skeptical. And and then when you say that you're going to make a movie about climate change, they some of them or most of them don't really have a good idea about what that is. And when I said that it's about glacier and the avalanche and the flood, then they started to say that, it's because that's because the god was angry, or because it's a result of what our bad karma. It could be a result of our bad karma. When they start say that, it kind of pained me, because they're blaming their faith, they're blaming their doings, for this climate crisis, and which is so untrue. So I felt it more important to bring their stories up, and also to take out the scientific perspectives to them as well by localizing it. So the movie is called No Monastery and No Village, and it kind of is self-explanatory in nature, saying that this entire existence of this village depends on a one particular cultural heritage that was built in 11th century, called the Rinchen Monastery, and it's one of the Nepal's oldest monastery. The problem here is that this intangible cultural heritage is being affected by glacial lake Alba's flood, and the glacial lake is just 6.5 kilometers away from this monastery. So there's not much many reasons to live in the Himalayas, except that if you enjoy the beauty of the mountains. But then when there is not much economic resources, not like or infrastructural development, or the indifference nature of state towards these Himalayan communities, then a lot of people tend to migrate to urban cities. But then this particular village in my community, or my village people, find a reason to stay in the village because of the monastery, the divine connection that they have with the monastery, and this monastery is being affected by flood. So I wrote a lot of papers on that way before. It just did not get well propagated among people. But when I made the movie, a lot more people came to know more about it, because in the movie it was not just a facts and figure, it was emotions, it was people's connection and strong bond to the monastery, and that how people are willing to give up everything to save this monastery, and so many more. So yeah, and the entire setting of this movie is in my village, or it is called Limi Valley, and it is in the northwestern part of Nepal, and it's like the largest ward unit within the rural municipalities of Nepal. And more than 50% of its territories is a grassland, and it forms the western end of Tibetan Plateau, which is the world's highest plateau. So there's much more to it. The Limi is also known as the Shangri-La for wildlife biodiversity, because it has more wildlife species than the population of Limi, the entire population of Limi combined. And it houses wild yak, which is a critically endangered species, and it was again also once declared extinct from Nepal until it was found in Limi. So it's really a hotspot for biodiversity that the people of Limi has been catering to, and conserving for centuries. So what it made, what to put you in perspectives, these people have been the most climate friendliest people on earth, yet they are facing the wrathful consequences out of the warming temperature. So they blame themselves and their faith and their mountain gods being angry for the crisis that they're going through. But in reality, as a so-called educated person, when we know that what's really happening, I felt a moral obligation to do more than just writing, just to, to do more than just speaking at events. So I went to the village and did the movie, and although there was not much direct, positive impacts coming out of the movie, but I can say this much, that at least the language, the indigenous language, the movie is made in indigenous language with English subtitle. It is being documented, because it is again endangered language in itself. And then in the movie it mostly tells about their own indigenous way of life, indigenous way of thinking, which by the way was very difficult to translate to English, but still it gave a platform to a platform to be documented. And most importantly, the village did not just face glacial lake outburst flood. By the very next year, the valley faced massive avalanches that took lots and lots of yaks away. So yak is this Himalayan version of cow, and the people do rearing of it, and it's the second most important source of livelihood. And when that was carried away, the agriculture is already degrading. The agriculture output is already decreasing, and so there goes the yak too. And it pained me because neither the glacier lake outburst flood in 2011 and nor the massive avalanches event of 2012 made it to national news in Nepal. So there's so much disparities, so and let alone forget the fact that reaching of adaptation and mitigation funds there. So there was so much pressure on me as a person, moral pressure, to speak up about this one, because Nepal, not just Nepal, many countries talk about indigenous communities being one of the most vulnerable communities again in the face of climate crisis. And yes, a lot of countries get funds, but do the funds really go to the grassroots? That becomes very questionable. And that's where I come in. I'm trying my small part, saying that, oh, these people are not just data and all of that.